Hi everybody, here's an article posted on June 20th. It says 19 reasons to start preparing for a global economic collapse. Yes, it is officially time to start freaking out about the global economy. The European financial system is falling apart and is going to go down hard. If Europe was going to be saved, it would have happened by now. The big money insiders have already pulled their funds from vulnerable positions and they are ready to ride out the coming chaos. Over the next few months, the slow-motion train wreck currently unfolding in Europe will continue to play out, and things will likely start heating up in the fall once summer vacations are over. Most Americans greatly underestimate how much Europe can affect the global economy. Europe actually has a larger population than the United States does. Europe has also a significantly larger economy and much larger banking system. The world is more interconnected today than ever before, and a collapse of the financial system in Europe will cause a massive global recession. Once the global economy slides into another major recession, it is going to take years to recover. The pain is going to be immense. Yes, that is going to include the United States. Sadly, we never recovered from the last recession, and it is frightening to think about how much further this next recession is going to knock us down. The big problem is that there is simply way too much debt in the United States. In Europe, it has been a lot of fun spending all of this borrowed money, but now we get to pay the price. The following are 19 reasons why it is time to start freaking out about the global economy. The yield in 10-year Italian bonds has now risen to more than 6%. Number 2. The yield on 10-year Spanish bonds has now risen to more than 7%. This is considered to be an unsustainable level. Number 3. Citigroup chief economist William Buiter says that both Italy and Spain are going to need major bailouts. Number 4. The Spanish banking crisis continues to get worse. The following is from a CNN article that was posted on Monday. But the depth of the nation's crisis has raised doubts about whether 100 billion will be enough to recapitalize the banks. For example, the Bank of Spain, the nation's central bank, released data Monday showing that doubtful loans, those that are more than 3 months overdue, rose to 152.7 billion euros in April, equal to 8.7% of all the loans held by the nation's banks. Number 5. Unemployment in Spain is sitting at a record high of over 24% with no hope in sight. Number 6. Unemployment in the Eurozone has hit a brand new all-time record high. Number 7. The Socialists won an outright majority in the recent parliamentary elections in France. That means that France and Germany are now headed in completely different directions. The close cooperation that we have seen between France and Germany in recent years is now over. Number 8. New French President Francis Hollande, I guess that's how you pronounce it, has promised to implement a top tax rate of 75% on those making over 1 million euros a year. Number 9. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has declared that Germany will not budge at all on the terms of the Greek bailout. Number 10. Analysts at Citigroup Global Markets are projecting that the odds of Greece leaving the euro over the next 12 to 18 months are still between 50 and 75%. Number 11. Money is being transferred from banks in Southern Europe to banks in Northern Europe at an astounding pace. Number 12. As I write about recently, about 500 million euros a day has been pulled out of Greek banks so far this month. Number 13. The Bank for International Settlements is warning that global lending is contracting at the fastest rate that we have seen since the end of the last financial crisis. Number 14. Lloyd's of London has publicly admitted that it is making preparations for a collapse of the Eurozone. Number 15. Government debt levels all over the industrialized world have exploded in recent years. The following is from a recent article by Stephen Lendman. 5 years ago, OECD countries' sovereign debt GDP ratios were 70%. Today, it's 106% and rising. Anything over 100% is considered to be an extremely dangerous level. Number 16. The economic problems in Europe are already taking a toll on the U.S. economy. At this point, U.S. exports to Europe are way down. Number 17. One recent poll found that 75% of Americans are either very or somewhat worried that the U.S. economy is heading for another recession. Number 18. Under Barack Obama, the United States has been indulging in a debt binge unlike anything ever seen in U.S. history. After just 1 year of the Obama spending binge, federal spending had already rocketed to 25.2% of GDP, the highest in American history except for World War II. That compares to 20.8% in 2008 and an average of 19.6% during Bush's 2 terms. The average during President Clinton's 2 terms was 19.8%, and during the 60-plus years from World War II until 2008, 19.7%. Obama's own fiscal 2013 budget, released in February, projects the average during the entire 4 years of the Obama administration to come in at 24.4% in just a few months. That budget shows federal spending increasing from $2.983 trillion in 2008 to an all-time record $3.796 trillion in 2012, an increase of 27.3%. Moreover, before Obama, there had never been a deficit anywhere near $1 trillion. The highest previously was $458 billion, or less than half a trillion in 2008. The federal deficit for the last budget adopted by a Republican-controlled Congress was $161 billion for fiscal year 2007, but the budget deficits for Obama's 4 years were reported in Obama's own 2013 budget as $1.413 trillion for 2009, $1.293 trillion for 2010, $1.3 trillion for 2011, and $1.327 trillion for 2012. 4 years in a row of deficits of $1.3 trillion or more, the highest in world history. And number 19. Barack Obama almost seems more focused on his golf game than on the problems the global economy is having. He just finished up playing his 100th round of golf since he became president. If you are looking for some kind of global financial miracle, you can stop watching. If European leaders had a master plan to save Europe, they would have shown it by now. If Barack Obama had a master plan to fix things, he would have implemented it by now. If the Federal Reserve had a master plan to fix things, we would have seen it by now. The entire house of cards is starting to come down, and things are going to get really messy. A lot of people both in the United States and in Europe are going to lose their jobs and their homes over the next few years. It is likely that the next recession will be even more painful than the last one was. Now is not the time to panic. If you acknowledge what is coming and prepare accordingly, then you will likely be in good shape. But if you stick your head in the sand and pretend that everything is going to be okay, then the next few years will likely be incredibly painful for you. And in fact, I don't think it's going to be a couple years. I think it's going to be the next couple months. It's going to be very painful for millions of us because we're all saturated within our own little bubble of lives, and we don't really notice the things that's happening in other countries or happening in other neighborhoods. For example, like what's happening in Detroit, Michigan. You know, their unemployment rate is around 25%. I'm guessing it's around 25%. I think it might be much higher than that. I've heard that's the most hardest hit city in the entire country for unemployment. But it's bad everywhere, folks. All right, people are still losing their jobs. They're still having problems, you know, making ends meet, paying their bills. It's just so very difficult for so many of us on this planet to live because of the old global financial system. All right, we have to figure out a way to transition out of this old system into something new and better that supports everyone and not a select few. Right now, The big international bankers are trying to find ways to solve the economic crisis by basically taking more money for themselves and screwing the rest of the people on this planet. All right, it's all about consolidating money, consolidating power, and all they want to do is continue to gain more control over the masses. All right, the big bankers are the biggest terrorists on the planet, as well as the big oil companies as well. All right, they're still reaping in huge profits because of we're on an oil-based economy. If we're on a different type of energy-based economy, I'm sure things will get totally better than what they are now. All right, energy runs the planet. Energy runs everything. If you really think about it, you look how energy affects your lives every single day. All right, it powers your laptops, your desktop computers, your iPads, your phones, your air conditioners, your microwaves. You need energy for your cars, your equipment. Everything comes down to energy runs everything. Without energy, nothing will work. Seriously, nothing. Everything will be just paperweight. All right, just pieces of metal and plastic. All right, just sitting there. It's nothing without energy. And we have to realize that. We have to understand that energy is empowering. Right? When people have access to more energy, it changes their lives. So that's what we need to come down to. What we need to use to transition out of an oil-based economy. And that's one of the hugest solutions to get us out of this financial mess. Okay? Because we don't need to be stuck on oil for ever and ever and ever. Alright? Gasoline. You know, we need to get rid of the whole oil-based economy and get into a much more freer energy type of economy. I know there's alternative fuels and alternative ways of using energy like solar, wind turbines, geothermal. There's all types of different ones out there, but we need to continue to search for alternatives so we can change this economic system and get into a much more freer society. And then we can make sure that our economic system is not going to go through the same situations as it is right now today. Okay, so this global economic collapse, it might be a good thing for all of us, because that means that we know what we need to do to change this mess that we're in. All right, to change this system. But of course, like I said earlier, the bankers, the corporate CEOs, they don't want things to change because they want power, money, and control. That's the most important things that they want, and we want to be free on this planet. All right? We don't want people to be poor anymore. We're tired of being poor and everybody else suffering because of a select few. It's time for us to rise up, and that's what we need to do, is rise up against the elite, rise up against the dark cabal, the New World Order, whatever you want to call them. All right, the top 0.1%, the Bilderberg Group. All right, they're almost like the 0.1%, whatever you want to use the term. All right, we're all to blame for this. Everyone is to blame for the global economic collapse. If we don't wake up, if we don't change things now, things will get very, very bad for all of us. And I don't want things to get really, really, really bad for anybody, even for our children, because they don't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. No one deserves to suffer. But we continue to recreate the same situations every single moment because we're supporting the old structure, the old system. Okay? But anyway, take a look at the article, share it with your friends and family, and have a great day, and take care, everybody.